This time on Watchers of Tomorrow, Star Trek predicts the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan.
Hello everyone, welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi critique show. We bring in other stuff too for the heck of it, and I need a better intro for this. My name is Gep, and I am joined as always by my friend and co-host Dr. Izix.
Hi!
This week we watched Star Trek Original Series episode Friday's Child.
Is this Joe Friday's kid? We finally figure out what happened there?
This is apparently in reference to an old poem that I was only sort of familiar with, where children born on different days of the week have various attributes, but no one seems to be able to agree on which day is assigned to which thing.
So it's basically, what's your birth sign except for days of the week?
Somewhat. Apparently they are taking this episode title from Friday's Child is Full of Woe, but in the poem that they link to specifically in the Wikipedia article for that, Friday's child is loving and giving, and Wednesday's child is the one who is full of woe.
I'm guessing it's not like Lady Gaga's woe.
Probably not. The only thing all of the poems seem to agree with is children born on the Sabbath day are bonny, blithe, good, and gay.
Cool. So there's some good stuff there.
I hated it. Like, spoilers. I don't know. This episode was not very well put together, and I had to rearrange some things to make it make sense.
A little bit.
And it still doesn't.
It's just sort of like, okay, we got some plot points here. We got to throw them together in some order, and there's some stuff. And then they manipulate poor, James Doohan, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, it's all messy and weird and...
Yeah, I'd say that it's not the worst we've run into, but it is kind of on the lower end as far as quality goes.
Yep, which is unfortunate. We have a guest star this episode that people have heard of. They just don't give her anything to actually do.
Uh-oh.
Yes, our main guest star this week is Julie Newmar playing Ellen, who starred in My Living Doll and is also well known for playing Catwoman in the 1960s Batman TV show.
Excellent.
I also have several other people who were somewhat known at the time. Michael Dante is playing Mob, or Mab. He was a professional basketball player.
Right. Mab is just like the Celtic mythic figure of the fairies and things like that.
Maybe. The names in this are just weird and awful.
It's original series Star Trek. It happens.
I have Tigay, or Tigay, I can't pronounce this first name, Andrews, playing Krass, who is the Klingon. He starred in 2 ABC cop shows.
Is one of them Chips?
No. I don't think either of them was Chips.
He was in Chips too, but...
They may not have starred in that.
You might be right. Yeah, I think he's like a 3-time person showing up there. Yes.
And the final main person is Ben Gage playing Akar.
Akar!
I wish he spent more time in the episode because every time they have to say that dumb name.
Sometimes we have to find the little joys in this sort of thing here, so I can get behind that. Krass, the Klingon there, they only refer to him as the Klingon throughout the episode, so if we only call him the Klingon later on, that's what's up.
Yeah, I know his name because of the transcript. Also, apparently, a thunderstorm just happened here, so there may be lightning noises.
Excellent. It's going to put us in the mood.
Alright, maybe they'll jump in, I suppose, before a tornado or something happens here. We open with McCoy briefing the command staff on a race called the Capellans, a warrior culture who he spent time with a few years before.
Yeah, is this Capellans as in like the star Capella, Alpha Regidae?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Acapella.
Ah, that's where the name comes from.
The Capellans had no use for him as a doctor because they don't believe in medication, thinking that the weak should die.
These guys don't seem like they're very friendly, but maybe we could prove wrong by their demonstration of their behavior in the episode.
Yes. Their principal fighting technique is a 3-bladed throwing weapon called a Kliget.
So it's like a shuriken, but smaller.
It's like bigger. A mix between a shuriken and a chakram.
Maybe we could just call it the glaive.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like a star glaive.
Note to self, add Kroll to the list of episodes I want to cover. Anyway.
They also use swords and knives, but have no ballistic weaponry. Mm-hmm. The Enterprise needs to negotiate mining rights for a rare and valuable mineral that seems to be quite common on this particular planet.
It's not dilithium this time.
We're doing mining rights again.
Yep, again. They seem to do this a lot.
Kirk, McCoy, Spock, and a security officer beam down, where they are greeted by a group of Capellans, as well as a Klingon named Krass.
And we're all disappointed that these locals aren't all singing at this point.
The sight of a Klingon startles the security officer, who goes for his weapon, causing the Capellans to kill him instantly with one of their Kligets.
Well, I guess this is going to be the end of our diplomatic mission here. Everyone either run away or start fighting.
Yep. Also, we're 2 paragraphs in and I'm already sick of reading these stupid name things. Turns out that Krass is also there to negotiate mining rights. Both he and the Enterprise crew have to give up their weapons and communicators and are now guests of the Capellan leader.
Well, I guess without weapons we're not going to be a threat anymore, so they're not going to kill any more dudes, right?
Yeah, sure. Kirk spends a bit of time worrying that if a Klingon is down on the planet, there may be a Klingon ship in orbit ready to threaten the Enterprise. And sure enough, the Enterprise detects a ship just on the edge of sensor range, but it is doing nothing at this point.
We're being shadowed.
They are brought into a waiting tent where a woman enters, offers to give Kirk food or something. McCoy warns him not to interact with her, and if he does, then her closest male relative will try to kill him. A man enters and is disappointed that he does not get to kill him, and this was basically pointless.
So what you're saying is they have a social norm that's basically to get people to be baited into a fight to the death for no reason?
Seems to be. McCoy makes an offhand point that they consider fighting more pleasurable than love.
Well, I hope they, since everything seems to be a fight to the death, they need to get busy a lot. But I don't see any kids around.
What are these children?
Yes. Maybe the Capellans are born fully grown somehow.
Later on, they meet the Capellan leader, Akar. Spelled with 3 A's.
Yes.
He likes the Federation, but his rival, Mob, convinces him that the Federation is too different and they have much more in common with the Klingons. At this point, we also meet Ellen, Akar's pregnant wife.
Anyway, so we got 2 guys with kind of ridiculous names, Akar and Mob, but Ellen is just Ellen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's spelled with 3 E's.
Oh, yeah, that's something, I guess.
I guess it would be Eileen.
Come on, Eileen.
Maybe. Yes. Come on, Eileen.
We got singing here somewhere. So
yes. Akar takes a bit of time to consider the trade agreements and is threatened briefly by Mab before the party leaves. We immediately cut to a big fight. The series seems to have suddenly developed a habit of doing this.
In media res, violence everywhere.
Mab seizes power from Akar. Kirk and Krass fight, with Kirk winning, but Mab interrupts, announcing that Akar is dead and now Mab is in charge. And he may or may not deal with the Klingons as he agreed previously, but he's now power hungry and in charge.
Cool. I hope this power doesn't go to your head, guy.
Ellen is brought in, apparently because she's carrying the child of the previous leader. She has to be condemned to die under their laws. Also, they are really mean to her and trip her, and she burns her hand on a brazier in the middle of the room.
These guys seem like jerks, I think.
Yep. She's pretty ready to accept her fate under the law, but Kirk pulls her away, saving her and also touching another man's wife, both of which are against their local laws, so now he must die.
Wait, so she's going to be murdered, and because he touched her, he has to die too?
Yes.
This doesn't make any damn sense.
Nope.
Also, what about the guy who tripped her?
Meanwhile, the Enterprise has detected a Federation distress signal, and since they cannot contact Captain Kirk because he gave up his communicator, Scotty decides that they have no choice but to leave orbit to investigate the distress signal, leaving the party alone on the planet.
Now, it's important to note that the name of the cargo ship that's apparently giving the distress signal is the Deidre, which is also James Doohan's daughter's name.
Oh.
So
Okay.
clearly the writers are messing with James Doohan in order to get the character to do things.
That's why Scotty's not making good decisions this episode.
Exactly. He's manipulated into it. Oh no!
Kirk and the crew are imprisoned with Ellen. McCoy decides that he's going to take a look at Ellen's burned hand. Kirk and Spock are very into this idea. I guess they're hatching a clever plan.
Yes. Look over there at the doctor person who touching the lady. Isn't that terrible?
Yes, Ellen protests at being touched by McCoy, which distracts the guards, letting Kirk and Spock easily knock them out. Ellen decides that she would rather leave with them than sit around and wait to be executed, so they all run away.
Finally, we found somebody on this planet who's not like completely insane.
So far, she does not have very many lines, and all of them are like 2 words and make her sound really stupid.
Man, we can't get any good example of good people on this planet, can we?
Crass is further upset at Mab for not honoring their original agreement, but Mab is in charge now, and he's going to do what he wants, including kicking the Klingons' weapons.
Well, I guess this whole regime change thing worked out for you, Mr. Crass guy.
Yeah, that's like you shouldn't maybe instigate rebellions to get your way because power-hungry people aren't reliable.
Yep. But more on that later.
The Enterprise has arrived at the coordinates given by the distress signal, but there is nothing there, and they begin a search pattern. That's all. It's a lot of very brief Enterprise cutaways this episode.
Suddenly we're here, and then back. Then here, then back.
Kirk, McCoy, Spock, and Elaine are a good way from the encampment near some rocky cliffs that narrow into a canyon. McCoy tries to examine Elaine, but she does not want to be touched, and slaps him for randomly grabbing at her. He gets angry and also slaps her, which I guess lets her know that he's serious, and he proceeds with his examination.
So this is like Capella flirting, I guess?
Apparently, this is also not good. Like, no doctor should do this ever.
Yeah, but McCoy, you're going to have to turn that medical license here. Oh, you already lost it because of all that drinking? Well, Kirk, could you just put him in the brig or something? Just get him off the planet. Come on.
Yeah, I guess this is like played off as humorous or something. I hate it.
Yeah.
He announces that her pregnancy is going to come any time now, and she is impressed by this because even their midwives and whatnot can't tell when a baby's going to be born, I guess.
Have we seen any of the midwives here at all?
Not so far.
Okay. That might be why. I don't exactly.
And then she starts to act all weird about McCoy. Spock spots a group of Capellans coming their way, and they decide to use their communicators that they got back off screen. We were told about in a captain's log, but they just showed up with them.
Managed to find our communicators, but not our weapons for some reason. Weird.
They're going to use these communicators that they magically have to create a magical vibration that will magically collapse the cliffside.
Good vibrations.
They set up the rock slide, and it kills several of the Capellans pursuing them, but Mab and Crass survive, as well as several other guards. But now they must go around this very small rock slide that would not have impeded them in any way, shape, or form.
It should be noted that the Capellans are sort of presented as these kind of giant folks. They're like given platform shoes and long things that cover their feet, so you can't tell. But so they're supposed to be like giant, physically imposing people, and they're like, "Oh, we found some rocks. Oh, I guess we can't move them."
Yeah, the pile of rocks looks to be about 8 feet tall. You could climb that easy. Yeah. I don't.
Just reach up and pull yourself up, guy.
This also gives Crass the opportunity to grab a phaser that one of the Capellan guards had.
Oh no, the Klingon might try to laser somebody.
The crew keep moving, but Ellen is slow because she's not climbing the rocks very well, and she'll only let McCoy touch her.
No, McCoy, go and be an escalator.
Rock climbing. Yes. I'm a doctor, not an escalator. I still know what those are for some reason. Scotty has used his ultimate power of basic competence to deduce that there is no debris or ship or anything, so the distress signal they were chasing was probably a ruse to get them away from the planet. But he's going to stick around just to be sure, and so the episode can last another 15 minutes.
Yep. Otherwise, this will be over so much sooner.
The crew back on the planet have found themselves a cave. McCoy and Ellen stay inside because she has gone into labor, while Kirk and Spock go outside and make some very janky-looking bows and arrows.
Yeah, I guess their Boy Scout training is paying off, I guess?
Yes. Looks about Boy Scout quality.
Yeah. Maybe we're being too rough on the Boy Scouts, honestly.
Yeah, you're right. They should be able to do better work than that. The child is born, and Elaine has decided that for some reason it's McCoy's kid.
Because that's how it works, I guess, now.
Yep. He slapped her, so now it's his baby.
So does that whole she has to be put to death thing not work now?
I don't know. I guess still or some. No one knows. No one knew in the first place.
Yeah. Picking up the rules as they go along.
The Enterprise has now decided that it's time to head back to the planet. But there's suddenly another distress call from a Federation ship. Scotty decides to ignore it because it's obviously another ruse. And he says, "Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, fiddle-dee-dee," or some such.
And Chekhov has Russia take credit for the saying.
Yes. So, again. Ellen knocks out McCoy with a rock and runs away.
Okay.
Yep.
I think it should also be pointed out McCoy was kind of sleepy, so she probably could have just waited a few minutes and he'd fall asleep.
Yeah, she probably could have just left. The Enterprise on the way back encounters a Klingon ship, and they prepare to fight it.
Oh no, the Enterprise is gonna be heavily damaged, and they're gonna not be able to beam people down or up or something like that because everyone's half dead on the Enterprise. The Klingons are maybe defeated, and there's going to be this big chase scene. And there's going to be firing of phasers and photon torpedoes, and there's going to be a tricky gambit. They're going to go into a nebula perhaps and chase around, but someone's going to realize the Klingons are thinking two-dimensionally. Wait a moment.
As far as we know, but we cut back to Mab and Crass and the other people who are still there trying to kill the Enterprise crew. Ellen runs up, lying to tell them that the child is dead and that she killed the crew. I guess this is supposed to be some sort of ruse to get them to leave, but it's very unclear.
I guess since she now has the hots, I guess, for McCoy, she wants them to be able to live. And yeah, so I guess she's going to be self-sacrificing somewhat.
Cass does not believe this, but not trusting Elaine as the former wife of the leader bothers Mob as a breach of honor.
So wait, so you want her dead? Also, you have to keep her, you gotta treat her word as legit, even though she has good reason to lie.
Because she wouldn't lie, even though she's lying.
Yes.
But Crass runs up the hill, letting Kirk shoot him in the knee.
Good on you, Kirk.
I think there's a Skyrim joke here.
Gotta go become a guard now, Crass. Sorry.
Kirk and Spock proceed to take out a few more guards with their bows and arrows. Crass takes cover and threatens to kill all of the Capellans with his phaser. Mab, for some reason, decides that now he's going to free Ellen and starts just walking slowly towards Crass. Crass kills him before he can get anywhere, but this puts him out of position and lets one of the others kill him with one of their Kilgats.
Yep.
Kligats, whatever it is. I'm tired of names.
the throwing thingies.
Yes. Just then, a group from the Enterprise arrives, phasers drawn. I guess they beat the Klingon starship off screen somewhere.
Yep, that whole action scene there that I was describing before, completely gone off screen, missed some exciting stuff, probably.
McCoy brings out the baby, Spock is confused by baby talk, and everything's good now.
So we can leave this planet behind and then their weird behaviors and just call it good.
Back in the ship, we learn that Elaine, acting as the regent for the new leader, has approved their mining rights, and also she named the kid Leonard James Akar, which is funny.
Yeah.
The end.
Man, what even with this episode?
I don't know. It's hard to get. There's like every misstep they could have done, they did, and then more.
Yeah. So there's some stuff we can unpack here. It's kind of just really lame. Do you have any preference for where we want to start on this one?
Well, I guess we should get the very obvious out of the way that this is another double Orientalist episode.
Yeah.
The Capellans are coded quite Mongolian.
Yes. This is sort of this certain accents to the dress. Their attitudes and honor and blood and things like that, and various sort of very possessiveness of the women in their society is a little absurd. It's very vibing to those old terrible stereotypes.
Yes, they also have like kind of very sort of Mongolian looking tents for everything and braziers. They don't have any horses.
The horses would be too expensive, though.
Yeah, probably. And they're throwing weapons. They're actually kind of Sikh. And then you got the Klingons, which we've talked about a lot before. So that's not getting any better.
I guess that we focus much less on the Klingon other than he's there and causing mischief, and really we don't really learn anything new about them other than that they are still an adversary. So
there's a particular crappy trope with this kind of military-ish, very we're gonna kill everyone and only the strong should survive culture that didn't exactly ever exist, but people love it for some reason.
It speaks to the sort of the vibe of sort of your manly man sort of. This is a society where only the strong survive, and thus I will be the leader of the society sort of thing. And it's a bit of a fantasy, a power trip, a power fantasy, as you were. As far as sort of thinking about it, it's like, well, if I lived in this society, everything will just work out because I'm awesome and all that fun stuff. But it sort of ignores all the kind of obvious facts that it would fall apart pretty easily.
Yes. Well, there's a particular myth around this with sort of quote-unquote primitive cultures that they would have had these ideas then, and a lot of them have stuck around, that there's this whole ancient myth that before modern society and all of our medicine and whatnot, people with injuries and sicknesses and whatnot would be such a burden on society that you have to just let them die.
Sort of a ultimate survival of the fittest, but not quite.
And in fact, it was only yesterday that I was listening to another frickin' argument on a radio show that humans have now removed ourselves from evolution because medicine is letting so many people live who would not have lived before medicine.
It's not quite how it works, guys.
No, it's not how it works at all.
It's a super misreading of what all this sort of is, and it's okay. So you want in your mind, it's like, we want to have us as people to be a collection of beings that are subject to some notion of survival of the fittest, and we are going to do this through some through some directed means, and that directed means is going to select for these particular traits, etc., etc. And as they sort of, try to make this argument for this is how things should be, they are sort of intentionally leaving out certain aspects of how the world works that kind of make all their structures here sort of fall apart. And it's like, okay, you're talking about people who get sick. Now, if someone gets sick and dies well after they've, say, had a bunch of kids, do you have to murder the kids too? Because this person died. They got sick. They died. They're obviously not fit to exist anymore. What doesn't that mean all their progeny are now just as terrible? It must be just purged as well. No, that doesn't make any damn sense.
Well, the only thing that you ever do when you're talking about these evolutionary things are you've changed the selection pressures.
Exactly.
So evolution is not some sort of march towards progress. It is just a thing that happens.
It's like a filter. It's set up to chemically pull out certain things. If you're like talking about like something you're like putting some sort of mucky water in, and it's like, okay, this filter only removes, say, iron, and so all this chlorine is still there, all this salt is still there, all this random bits of bacteria are also still in there, and that's okay because we've designed our filter like that.
Even going back to just the kind of historical idea of the weak must not survive, no interest in medication. There's lots of anthropological evidence of ancient cultures with people who were, buried, treated with honorable burials in whatever cultures they lived in, who had crippling disabilities or showed signs of surviving very bad illnesses that they would not have been able to survive without help from their community. So this idea that, in whatever primitive cultures or some such, the weak would just be killed or let die is just, racist nonsense, basically.
Yes. It's an argument that's being constructed in order to allow someone to design a filter that they have a preference for, not necessarily anything actually based in reality.
Now, the culture that people keep coming back to with this idea, and what I think a lot of these weird quasi-military-ish cultures seem to be based on, is the kind of myth of the Spartans.
How did I know you were going to say that? Yeah, I've heard a lot of things said about Sparta specifically, and some of it's completely made up, some of it's actually true, and all of it sounds terrible no matter how you sort of cut it.
Yeah. But even if you take it at face value, there's this idea, the only thing that really ties in so much is this idea that they would leave kind of newborns out overnight to see if they would live, or at least examine them and kill off ones with disabilities. Which one that wouldn't work very well because the disabilities that you can visually see when a baby is born are very slim, especially with that level of medical technology.
Well, it has all the limbs. It's not purple. I guess it's going to probably live.
And I haven't found any particular, this was definitely a thing that happened or this was a apocryphal story. There's also been a lot of writing about how the Spartans were a sort of military-based culture that sold themselves as the strongest warriors around because they were kind of a mercenary society. So having a myth that you killed off anyone weak in your society doesn't do you any harm as your sellability as a traveling mercenary force.
Yeah, so none of our people are weak in the least. If they were, they'd be dead already. So hire us and you'll get the best.
And even in something like that, you had a king, you had a hierarchical ruling class structure. Attacking your fellow Spartans was frowned upon and punishable. Was not a every person for themselves just kill each other until society breaks down and the last one standing gets to be the leader.
Yeah, there is a order that was being enforced by because that's what most civil societies tend to do. There are going to be cops on the street of some sort, and Sparta's no exception.
So this is basically this weird myth thing that people just like because it's kind of the same thing that we get nowadays with the post-apocalyptic fiction. It's just this like, I am strong and big and I have this power fantasy, and if I was in this society I'd be in charge, or I could survive, or all that junk.
The problem is most of us would die of radiation poison well before that.
Yeah. So that's out of the way.
Yeah.
And that's my big beef with these kinds of episodes in all genres of science fiction. They're just racist junk that got filtered in. They aren't even using it to examine anything interesting. It's just, here's a weird military culture where they like hurting each other. That's weird, right?
Well, it does make for interesting sort of parallels to the other thing I think we should probably talk about, the Cold War.
Yes.
So obviously the situation here is very much a parallel of various sort of, conflicts, alliances, etc., various diplomatic incidents, you could say, as far as interactions in the real world between the United States and the Soviet Union. That there would be a country of either strategic location or with a certain resource, one or both powers had a intense interest in, that they would go in and try to figure out a way to get that country on their side. And and often enough, this would be independent of how stable or coherent the government of that country was, as well as there's plenty of instances of very unreliable leaderships that they found themselves working with that worked sometimes. Other times it ended up kind of biting them in the ass. There's many an example in the real world. If you should I go over a few, Gepwin?
Sure. I mean, you do have this exact thing in a lot of places. Like, you get one group coming in going, hey, this person who wants to be leader is kind of more amenable to our things. Maybe we should give them some weapons and stuff and see what happens. Just helping out some freedom fighters. That's all.
If you manage to overthrow your king or parliament or whatever you got up there, just remember who got you your weapons. Wink. So I think the most, I guess, obvious one that people talking about is the thing I sort of referenced in the intro there of Afghanistan specifically, where the Soviet Union decided to go into Afghanistan, and they're like, well, we're just gonna kind of take over, and the locals are like, we don't much like that. And the U.S. is like, yeah, having Soviets kind of here is getting them in the better position as far as like actual physical locations. So maybe we'll go fund some of the opposition, get them some training. What are these guys anyway? They're some sort of Al-Qaeda, you say? Well, I'm sure there'll be no problem in the future. They'll be on our side forever, right?
That works out. I think they're still valued allies.
Yep. After all this time, and, all that recent history we've had here in the last 20 years. But, there's other instances, of course. Speaking of other Middle East countries, we could just move a little bit further west. There's that, there's some sort of government in Iran, I think it was in the 50s, was it? That didn't didn't have too much interest in being on board with the U.S. here. But, the U.S. is like, now we're going to get you replaced or to get you a nice little guy to take over for you for a while. And that worked out just well. Do you remember what happened with that, Gepwin?
Is that thing where a sitting president committed treason?
Perhaps. But if you recall, in Iran, the U.S. government that was, the government that was friendly to the U.S. was eventually taken out by in 1979 by some sort of Islamic revolutionary organization. I forget the name of it off the top of my head right now. I should have written this down in my notes. But the Iran stopped being so friendly to the U.S. and for a while it was sort of its own thing, and has more recently been much more interested in being friends with Russia and things like that. So that turned out just swell, didn't it?
Well, this is just a thing superpowers have been doing since this is like the post imperial era
Yes.
of the quiet empires.
Yes, where we're not going to run your country directly. We're going to work closely with your leadership and hope that the leadership you have is ones that we installed and not the ones that were installed by the other side. Should I keep going? I keep going from country to country that share land borders here for a while.
I mean, if you want. We don't have a lot else to talk about, and I think we've got 20 minutes to fill, but...
There's a story that's maybe a little uncertain about some of the details, but I think it goes back in the 50s. In Iraq, there was the U.S., the CIA was maybe working with some guy. The first name was Saddam, I think it was, and Saddam went and tried to assassinate the leader of I think it was a reigning dictator in Iraq at the time, and it didn't work. But he fled the country. And there is so much hoopla about it that his political organization, the Ba'athist Party, got a lot of notoriety back home, which helped them in their later activities to eventually take over the country, and generally be kind of assholes to everybody. But that Saddam guy came back and was kind of friendly to the U.S. In fact, speaking of Iran, they're like, Iran's kind of betrayed us here. Yeah, we're cool with you just getting a little bit of a fight with them to do a little proxy war, whatever, and also you can keep the oil funding from here. Oh, you're attacking our other ally? Oh, that's crap. Well, you shouldn't have invaded our Kuwait now, so now you're on the bad boy list. We're going to do that. So, sorry.
We've talked about this before with the colonialism episodes, and they do seem to always now follow a very similar pattern of them coming in to get mining rights or do mining or something. Mining must have just been an easy stand-in. I suppose they thought that oil was unrealistic.
Yeah, we're going to extract your resources. Buckle in, folks.
Space oil.
Though to a certain degree, oil, petrochemicals might still be very needed in the distant future. It'd just be, not necessarily for fuel oils, but for plastics or something.
Probably.
Yeah, but I'm not a chemist, so don't quote me on that. If there's
the plastic mines of the far future.
If there's better options out there that I'm unaware of, so put them in the comments. So and tell me what's up.
Well, you'd hope that someone would have moved to bioplastics by now. Some better kind of bioplastic.
Yeah, so some alternatives, so we don't have to mess with all this stuff anymore. Anyway, it's very much we got a plot point that's resource extraction, and we have to put up with some locals that are ridiculous in some fashion, and that ends up driving the entire plot of the episode. And to a certain degree, if there was a certain, say, I don't know, prime directive that would, say, discourage this sort of thing, especially when you're dealing with people that don't seem to be warp capable at all, maybe this whole plot would kind of fall apart.
Yeah, that interesting thing with the McCoy bit, because they made him kind of a missionary earlier on, which is an interesting thing they haven't really touched on before.
Yeah, they had made clear at the beginning, that he had been on this planet before for something else, and that's how he learned all the various random cultural mores that only come up when, almost after the fact.
Yeah, and he was there to give them medicine and things. There's this fairly interesting thing that I was kept thinking about with this episode, and there's been a couple others with this similar theme, where the people on the planet always say something to the effect of, "You're going to destroy our culture with your culture." And we're supposed to go, "Oh, they're just paranoid about this. The Federation culture is obviously superior to your culture, and you not wanting to learn their obviously superior ways makes you horrible and crazy, and we should hate you for that."
Oh, you're just backwards primitives.
Yeah, we get a lot of this. And it's bothering me more and more the further into this series we get. We haven't even hit the frickin' Native American episodes yet.
The sad thing about that is that the Native American weirdness still continues into the Voyager era too.
Oh yeah, it's worse there. But this idea of the primitive culture is a deeply seated imperialist idea that was used a lot by early explorers and missionaries in particular. Missionaries, and is what kind of McCoy was doing, honestly, is the first wave of the colonializing forces. You'd send out your missionaries for their missionary work to enlighten the heathens of other lands and teach them the value of wearing clothes and not having fun. And then your military force would show up later once they're all Christianized.
It's like, well, we got enough people that aren't going to immediately reject us, so we can, have at least a few footholds in here. And we can, and anyone who doesn't fall in line once we get there, well, we can just murder them.
Yeah, we have some very odd ideas about this sort of missionary thing. There was even a story very recently, a year or two ago, where a modern missionary was trying to make contact with some people who live on a like weirdly undisturbed island. They're one of the last kind of uncontacted.
It's in Southeast Asia, right?
Yes, I believe so. Yes,
it's like in Indonesia, Malaysia sort of area, right? And there was some death involved, right?
Well, this person tried to go once and was rebuffed by them throwing weapons at him, and then he came back and this time was actually killed. And there was this weird debate about whether or not he had the right to go to this island that has not been contacted and has no interest in being contacted by what we would think of as, the modern world, in heavy air quotes.
So the question is, this guy, is it okay for him to basically go into these people's house and tell them what to do or not?
And we do have we've got a very long history. There was a lot of philosophical arguments about this in the 15 through 1900s.
So that's a long time.
More that the other cultures just don't have a concept of borders or land ownership or land rights, and therefore you're allowed to go in there and do whatever. And also that missionary work is this special higher calling sort of thing that exempts you from these moral questions of invading someone else's territory and deciding that you need to spread your culture to theirs.
So there is one thing I tend to think about when the European notions like, oh, all countries have borders, and if they don't, they're not real countries, sort of thing comes up. Is that even in Europe that was kind of not a thing that they it's like, okay, so this is quote France, and it's more these are the titles that are under the crown of France. And these are maybe associated with certain, bits of territory or whatever. But that unification of the nation was very, very loose. There wasn't a solid, this is a negotiated border and we've drawn the line on the map. It's more of a, well, this is who this person swears fealty to, and if that changes for various reasons, say that person ends up becoming a king themselves, then things could happen, things can get kind of weird and all that fun stuff, and maybe we'll have 100 years war about it or something. But
you got into this all comes out of the old European feudal land system, where the king technically controlled a massive amount of land, and then that land was divvied up between his various trusted peoples and nobles all the way down. But yeah, it wasn't there was you couldn't really move another army or something in there. If you tried to claim territory, they would have a problem with it. The idea of kind of borders as we think of them now didn't really enter into the equation until quite recently, like the late 18 or 1900s.
I think it was a little earlier than that, but they were like very, very loose. Yeah.
So before kind of World War I sort of era, you just moved. You could just move between wherever. The borders were, even at that time, were much more about, like, you've crossed into this area where this set of laws apply.
It's less of a self-contained unit of territory and more of a rule change. Yeah, exactly as you said. That you have to now worry about this person having say over you if you're in this territory as opposed to the other person.
And before that, territory, in sort of a colonial imperial sense, was about resource control. So it didn't matter who went into or out of your particular territory, as long as everything in that territory generated revenue for the sovereign nation.
And sometimes people were keen on moving people from one place to another, but it's a whole other thing.
But this whole colonialist thing is basically this whole based on an idea that certain cultures don't have the rights to where they live. And it's very heavily coded in this episode with this sort of tent city that they have set up here. You'll notice that they don't have any permanent dwellings.
Yeah, because obviously these people move about, and so they are using the land, but they do not control the land, and thus we can have our mining operation.
Well, they aren't really. They're living on the land. They're not, they're using the land, but they're not making the land productive. Was the colloquial phrase. Because they are just living there. They probably have some kind of farming or something, but we don't see it. But they don't have industrialization. They aren't mining the resources that the Federation or the Klingons need. So their concerns are less important.
They farm murder, I guess.
Yeah.
that would make as much sense as the rest that's being presented here.
But apparently we're not supposed to think about it very much, because now there's a literal baby in charge.
Yep.
Who's not going to last long in the murder fights.
Nope. There was just a coup the other day, I don't think that kid's going to put up too much of a fight when someone else gets into their head that they should be in charge.
But it's fine now, because the government that the Federation likes is in power, and everything's great forever once that happens.
There'll never be any upset or change of power or anything at all. There's not going to be another coup. There's not going to be Klingons coming in here and with another ship saying, "Hey, do you really want to be run by a baby and lady that you tried to murder the other day?" I don't think that seems like a good idea to you.
These we can murder anyone to take over societies are very weirdly presented. I mean, I guess, like, if it was just a coup, people did murder kings and stuff before, but they presented it as a survival of the fittest type of everyone fights each other all the time thing, not just a random coup.
Yeah, so this would be the standard operating procedure on this planet for what they're presenting to us. And so that just seems like a terrible system, and it would be unsustainable because eventually everyone would end up dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I had.
Yes.
And then some.
Yeah, I think that's really all there is to this episode. I guess we could try to talk about the absurdity of some of the rules, but I don't really feel like it because they don't matter.
We've managed to milk more out of this episode than I thought we would, so I think it's time for the Galaxy's favorite game show. Woo!
Hey everybody, welcome to the game show portion of the show. We've tallied up all the various points of the various people that were in our today's episode, and we have some prizes to hand out. Our first award is the Cold War Strategy Award, which goes to Kirk and Crass, aka the Klingon, for their attempts to get to the planet of the super alpha people on board with their sides, probably to their own detriment. But who their own detriment means, either Crass, Kirk, or the Cabellans, it's kind of all of them, honestly. What do they win, Gepwin?
Kirk and Crass win those aliens from the arena episode, because where are they when you need them?
Come on, give us some more Gorns, eh? Our second award is the What Prime Directive Award. It goes to Starfleet Command for sending the Enterprise to make deals with the obviously pre-warp civilization that may very well pull them into a larger interplanetary conflict that could get everybody on the planet killed, if there's any left by that point. What do they win, Gepwin?
They win the Modern Superpower Award. Our ideals are our ideals, and we live by them unflinchingly until we need resources from somewhere, then never mind.
This seems a little hypocritical, but okay. Ho-ho. Our third award is the Unsustainable Murder Cult Award, which goes to the Capellans, because pretty soon they'll have murdered all each other, and there won't be any left. So yeah, they're a little quick to overreact, they got ridiculous rules, and they got this freaking revolution thing going on. I think they're all going to be dead pretty soon. What do they win, Gepwin?
Well, the Capellans don't win anything because they're all going to die, but the Federation wins, so you should have just waited 2 weeks.
That's a very good point. I guess we'll have another episode to come back to this empty planet and just start mining then. Ho-ho! Our final award is the Dr. Love Award, which goes to McCoy for accidentally, I guess, seducing Aline or something, just by kind of doing his normal job and also being an asshole by slapping her around. What does he win, Gepwin?
McCoy wins getting his malpractice insurance revoked, because between this, the drinking, the illegal experiments, the general lack of ethics, I'm pretty sure the Federation just doesn't know what he's doing because he's too far out.
Yeah, I think they need a new ship's doctor. Or maybe they should replace it with some sort of, hologram perhaps. That might help.
It's like they could replace him with someone else for one season who no one likes and then bring him back and they'll seem better.
That's a good point. Some sort of elderly lady, perhaps?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Anywho, that's all I got for awards today.
Thank you for all our contestants who managed to live. There's one of you left and you're in charge. Good job.
I think it's probably going to be the baby, because they forgot it existed.
And thank you all for joining us on this, the Galaxy's favorite game show.
Man, it's kind of hard maintaining that voice when I'm laughing so much.
Oh, good God. I remember next week's episode. It's one of the ones I saw years ago, and I don't think it's as bad, even though the resolution is still stupid.
I vaguely remember some of this, but I also think... I don't remember what the resolution was, but I remember it not being satisfactory. Then again, kind of any episode where this is the basic premise, you're going to run into that.
Yes, next week is the first, I guess, of the standard Star Trek We All Are Aging Really Fast episodes.
Oh no, we're old people, and that's terrible. Yeah.
It's called The Deadly Years.
Dun, dun, dun.
The Enterprise goes to some planet where people age a lot and die of old age.
Well,
which they've done in this. They've done in Next Gen. I think they did it in Voyager.
I watched an episode of Farscape where they do that.
Yeah, they did it there. They did it in Stargate.
Yep, the one planet with the nanites, right?
Yeah, 100 Days. That one was much better because it actually was someone's struggle with their impending mortality. That was a good episode.
It was able to sort of stretch it out, but I think we're pre-talking about the stuff that's better than the next episode well beforehand.
Yeah, but I'm kind of curious. I should do a little bit of research before because I want to know how old this trope is.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Old. Aha. You have to make a bunch of old puns.
Well, I'll try to keep myself from making wearing those out, but we'll have to see.
But we'll see how we do on that, and hopefully get a better episode for everyone next week on Watches of Tomorrow.
Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow, get off my lawn, darn kids. You have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin. and Twitter at Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix, and Twitter at IsixLP. Music is Waveform and Mori's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you, that is now, no longer exists.